Hey everyone and welcome to the show. You know how sometimes you get this creepy feeling? Like the place you know best, like really well, might be hiding something bad.
Yeah.
That sense of wait a second, is this place I know actually dangerous? That's kind of the darkness we're going into today. And we're going to look at how much courage it takes to face those hidden things.
It's really interesting how a place that seems so peaceful can make a story even more suspenseful, right? It's the contrast, like a normal surface hiding something wild underneath.
Totally. Today we're going deep into small town suspense, specifically Zara Evans's Falling Darkness. You can find a link to it on Amazon in the description. This isn't just a crime story, though. It's about this woman, Special Agent Izzy Llewellyn. She goes back to her hometown, which is already a complicated place for her, and she's just gone through a huge loss. But then she finds out that her hometown has even more mysteries and danger than she thought. So if you're ready for a trip into some seriously dark stuff, stay tuned. Oh, and if you like what you hear, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this. All right, let's get into what starts Izzy's story.
So we first meet Izzy when she's going through something really awful, about 9 months after something that totally messed her up. And the author, she uses such vivid details, like that image of black snow and that
Yeah.
bitter wind. Like it's not even hiding the smell of, well, decay in that warehouse district. It's strong.
Yeah, it really throws you right into the middle of things.
It does. It's like you can feel her senses on high alert, like that ingrained training of an FBI agent.
It's not just emotional either, right? Her whole professional life is turned upside down,
Right.
being forced out of the FBI.
Yeah.
The career she put everything into, that's like another blow on top of everything else. And Van Buren saying the team lost trust in her, that's gotta hurt.
That loss of her professional identity is so huge. She was all about competence and being dedicated, and now she's seen as untrustworthy. It makes her feel totally lost. Going back to her mom's place in suburban Richmond, you'd think that'd be comforting, but it's more like she's in this weird in-between state. Her old room, it's full of reminders of a life that doesn't fit anymore, and no one from work is contacting her. She's really isolated.
Exactly. It's like she's stuck between two worlds and doesn't belong to either.
Yeah.
Then this opportunity pops up. The sheriff position in Mirage County, which, by the way, everyone calls darkness. How fitting is that?
I know, right?
And it was her dad's job. So there's all this family history tied to it. You can totally see why she'd hesitate. That town is full of unresolved pain for her family, especially after her dad's death.
This is where family and community get really complicated. Her mom, Ainara, she totally shuts down the idea. The memories of the town turning on them after her husband died are still so fresh. She even remembers feeling like people were watching them, like vultures waiting for them to fall apart. It shows just how deep those wounds are.
This is heavy stuff. But then there's Maya, her sister. She had a different take on it, more hopeful. She remembers how much their dad loved darkness, the good he did there. So now Izzy's got this conflict going on. Is this a chance to heal? To take back a part of her past? Or is she walking right back into the source of all their pain?
It's so tense. You can really feel it when she finally decides to go. Even something as normal as her driving her Tesla. This modern car going to a place literally called darkness. It's kind of ironic. And the range anxiety she has, that's a small detail, but it shows how vulnerable she feels even in this fancy car.
It's like no matter how much technology you have, you can't escape those basic worries about being alone and stuck, both physically and emotionally. And then bam, she meets Cole Barrow at this gas station in the middle of nowhere. The tension between them is immediate. This is not your typical love at first sight moment.
Definitely not.
But even in that awkward first meeting, Cole notices things about her. He sees something deeper than what's on the surface.
I love that about their relationship. That initial clash often means there's something more complex coming, right?
Totally.
Then Izzy gets to her grandfather Joe's house, and the way it's described, it's clear he's lonely and neglected. The stacks of newspapers, the dirty dishes, it's all there.
It says a lot about how he's been doing, and it triggers Izzy's protective instincts.
Yeah.
Even with all her own stuff going on,
Yeah.
she's worried about him. And then she goes to the local grocery store. Talk about a crash course in small-town life. You've got the overly friendly, maybe too interested locals, then those guys in work boots giving her the cold shoulder, and that one dude in a cowboy hat just glaring at her.
Oh, yeah, him.
It's obvious darkness has a lot of opinions about her being back.
Totally. It's like this community with a long memory where everyone's in everyone else's business and the past never really goes away. Izzy's not just the new sheriff, she's also carrying all the baggage of her family history. It's so true. So she takes on the sheriff role. And even her first day is full of intrigue. Adrienne at the office seems nice, but maybe a little clueless about how tough the job can be.
Yeah.
Then Izzy sees the view from her new office. It overlooks the whole valley, and it's this incredible sight, a far cry from the cityscapes she's used to from the FBI.
It's a powerful image of her taking charge in this new place. But that feeling of control doesn't last long. In her first meeting with the deputies, Deputy Denley is openly disrespectful. It's jarring, and it sets up this immediate conflict between them. Then there's Under Sheriff Hawkins. He's more quiet, but you can tell he's holding something back.
Definitely. And then the swearing-in ceremony, it's this official moment of her becoming part of the community. But the talk with Hawkins afterward is super revealing. He tells her he's running against her in the special election. That's an instant political challenge. And then he mentions that her dad worked with the previous sheriff, Q. It's another thread tying her to the town's past. And right after that, Wahlberg drops this bombshell. Sheriff Trahan's death wasn't some random event from years ago. It happened recently and it was suspicious. A car accident with no autopsy.
Yeah, that's not normal at all.
Not for a small town like this. For someone like Izzy, with her investigative instincts, that screams something's wrong.
Absolutely. Then she goes to the Darkness Medical Clinic,
Yeah.
which, by the way, used to be the town's funeral home. The atmosphere is super eerie. And her first encounter with Dr. Cole Barrow. He signed the death certificate for Sheriff Trahan, and they clash immediately. It's tense, but you can feel that there's something more to their relationship.
Right. It's like they represent two different ways of getting to the truth. Izzy uses procedure and investigation, while Dr. Barrow is all about medical science and being objective.
Yeah, great point. So Izzy and Wahlberg start looking into Sheriff Trahan's death. And even the crash site itself doesn't add up. Izzy notices there aren't any skid marks. That's pure detective work right there. It suggests that Trahan wasn't just driving randomly, he was going somewhere specific, probably toward that dirt road.
That sharp eye for detail is what made her such a good agent. And then their visit to the wrecking yard in Harris turns up some interesting clues. Trahan's truck's solar panels were sold quickly after he died, and someone saw a black Ford F-150 Raptor nearby. These little things start adding up to something bigger.
Then they run into Hector Reeves. He's all agitated, and they find meth. It seems like a big break in the case, but his story about working on oil rigs, it's so obviously made up.
Totally. He's clearly trying to hide something, but with his weird behavior and the drug use, it's hard to tell if he's a major player or just someone caught in the middle of something bigger. Izzy going back to the crash site alone shows how much she doesn't buy the official story.
Right. Just when the investigation seems to be hitting a wall, someone from Izzy's past shows up. Tamara Ramos, her childhood friend. They meet up at Coyote Flats Cafe, and it's a nice moment of warmth and connection in this increasingly suspicious atmosphere.
Yeah, that shared history gives Izzy someone she might be able to trust in a place where everyone seems to be hiding something. But things start to get even weirder. Izzy feels like she's being watched, and then she finds a threatening note on her door. It's a clear sign that someone doesn't want her around and is willing to get dangerous about it.
And then there's this whole thing with kids in the community getting sick.
Right.
Dr. Burrow thinks it might be environmental contamination from pesticides, which brings in a whole new level of danger. It's not just about finding out what happened to one man anymore. It's about a threat to the whole town.
The stakes just got way higher. It's not just a crime, it's a potential health crisis, and that could either bring the community together or tear it apart.
So they start looking into the sick kids, and it leads them to the Markham farm. Little Robbie is really sick. It's heartbreaking. But in that shared mission to help Robbie, Izzy and Cole start to see each other differently. The coldness between them melts a little.
It's like seeing how compassionate and dedicated the other is, builds a bridge between them. They start to look past their first impressions and see each other as real people.
And that helicopter ride to Morella Rossetti's farm, it's so vivid how they describe the valley. Izzy's almost in awe. It's a beautiful moment of peace in all the tension. And they talk about their pasts, Cole's time in Afghanistan. You can feel a real connection forming. And yeah, that romantic tension is definitely heating up.
Totally. Sharing those vulnerable moments and personal stories deepens their bond. They're seeing each other as individuals with their own pasts and struggles.
Meanwhile, they're still looking into Sheriff Trahan's truck and find evidence connecting Hector Reeves to the stolen solar panels. Then someone breaks into Izzy's grandfather's house. That's when things get really scary. It's not just a feeling of danger anymore, it's a direct attack. And Cole's reaction, he's immediately worried about her.
Yeah, that break-in shows how much danger she's really in, and it shows Cole's protective side even more.
Then comes Thanksgiving, a holiday all about being together, right?
Yeah.
It becomes the backdrop for their growing relationship. The quiet talk on the porch swing, the kiss, it feels like a moment of peace they both deserve. But then Denley tries to turn Cole against Izzy. He shows Cole that fake FBI report about Mark's death, making it seem like Izzy was responsible. Cole is shocked, and he confronts Izzy. It's a huge betrayal.
That's awful. Denley twisting things like that, it makes Cole doubt everything he thought he was learning about Izzy. It's a major obstacle for their relationship.
So Izzy has to figure out what Denley is up to. This leads her to Harlan McCann, the guy who broke into Joe's house. But he won't say who hired him. But Izzy's persistent, and she finds Sheriff Trahan's hidden truck in McCann's garage. That's a huge clue that links everything together.
It's the proof that connects the break-in to Trahan's death, which means someone's working hard to cover things up.
And the connection between the sick kids and that possible contamination of the foothills, maybe from the old mines, starts to become clear. Then Izzy and Cole find waste from a meth lab in the stream by the Markham farm. That's the proof that ties the environmental danger to the drug operation.
It's messed up how the environmental crisis and the criminal activity are all tangled together. It shows just how deep the problems in darkness run.
The final showdown in the eastern foothills is like a race against time. Izzy confronts Deputy Denley, and he tells her straight up that he knows about Mark and Sheriff Trahan's deaths. Then she's ambushed and hurt.
It's terrifying. She's alone, betrayed by someone who's supposed to uphold the law. It shows how corrupt things are in the town.
But then Cole and Wahlberg show up, following Izzy's emergency beacon. It's such a relief. But the biggest shock comes when they find out who's behind it all. Nate Bolton, Tamara's cousin. That nice guy from the cafe was running the drug operation and threatening Izzy the whole time. His motive, his connection to the old sheriff's case, it's a total betrayal from someone she was starting to trust again. And then Cole has to make a split-second decision to shoot Nate to save Izzy's life.
Yeah, that was intense. And the fact that it's Tamara's cousin makes it even worse. Cole having to shoot him, it shows just how dangerous things were for Izzy.
In the end, we see Izzy recovering in the hospital, with Cole by her side. But the accusations from Denley still hang in the air. Then there's Thanksgiving dinner at Joe's house, with the whole community there. It's a powerful symbol of Izzy finally finding a place in darkness after all the chaos.
Even after all the trauma and corruption she uncovered, she's starting to build a life there, finding real connections in a place that used to represent so much pain. The community being there for her shows that things might be changing for the better.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into falling darkness, what really sticks with me is how powerfully it explores going back to your roots. It's not just about escaping, it's about facing your past, which can be really hard. We see how easily trust can be broken, but also how strong unexpected alliances can be when things get tough. And betrayal. It often comes from the people closest to us, not the ones we think are our enemies.
The book is so good at mixing the suspense of a thriller with these deeper explorations of character and community. It reminds us that even places we think we know well can hide dark secrets and dangers, and that real strength comes from connecting with others when things are dark.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What moment in Izzy's journey through darkness stuck with you? What surprised you the most about the mystery she uncovered? Tell us in the comments, and if you like this deep dive, please give it a like and share it with others.
If you loved Izzy's story, you might be interested to know that we might do a deep dive into the next book, Echoes of Darkness. In that one, Izzy continues to deal with being sheriff, fighting crime, and navigating local politics, and she has to deal with the legacy of her father, too.
So, to leave you with something to think about, remember that even the places we feel most comfortable in can have hidden darknesses. And facing those shadows, even though it can be painful, can lead to unexpected connections and a new sense of light. Until our next deep dive.